I'm live. Hello. I've got 5 people here. I was slightly more confident with this live stream, as the last one I was paranoid it wasn't going to work, but hopefully this time everyone can see me, and I'll also check the Patreon page this time, because last time people asked questions in there and I didn't realise right until the very end. So I hope everyone's well and coping okay with lockdown number 542. I'm obviously very excited that we've got some good news, and it's only because of you guys on Patreon mainly that I'm in a position where I can race this season. So I'm still just blown away that we're actually going racing, and chuffed to bits more than anything. So I think I sort of touched on it in my video. That was actually the easy bit, getting the ride. The hard bit is now doing the racing and all of that comes with it. But that's the bit I enjoy the most, and I love all the hard work that goes into it. So just the beginning. And you've got adverts coming up. Those bloody adverts. Well, the adverts are keeping me on the grid. So I'll start it off with all the Patreon questions I've got first. And I'll try and keep this one a little bit shorter this time, because last time it went on for an hour and I don't want to bore you all to death. But I'll go through the questions, and this live chat, I'm just going to carry on doing it all through the year. So this is just my way of keeping in touch with you guys. Any questions you've got, I'll answer them during the year. And this is kind of a private community that we've got on Patreon. Someone suggested in the last one that I open this up to my YouTube viewers, and I thought about it, and I just want to keep it private, because I feel like you guys contribute more than everyone else, and you deserve to have something special. So this is just for you guys. And as I said, any questions you've got during the year, just fire away and I'll answer them on here. So Rambo Racing, great, looking forward to it. I hope you're here, Rambo. Ian Chamberlain, can you tell us what amount of money is paid for the win bonus, etc.? So if you mean as in from the team, this year I don't get any win bonuses or anything. I'm just on the grid, and I'm just going racing because I want to be on the grid. In previous years, it's hard to, each contract's completely different. I think the most I've ever been offered in like a superbike contract, what's normal, is anything from £1,000 a win to £3,000 a win. I've never really heard anyone get any more than that, and I've never won a superbike race, so I've never got that myself. And then, but in Superbike, the reason the teams pay you a bonus is there's no bonus money in British Superbikes. There's no prize money at all, which changed from years ago. There used to be prize money in racing in the Superbike class, but that money is now given to the teams to keep the teams on the grid. So there's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, in that the money all goes in the pot somewhere, and I don't know. It's nicer as a rider when you win it at the end of the weekend, but also we need teams on the grid. So without teams on the grid, we wouldn't have bikes to ride. So there's no prize money in Superbike, but in Superstock, there is actually prize money. It's not changed since 1933, I think, the amount of prize money we get. We get £500 for a win, which is amazing. I'm really obviously happy when I win £500. But when you consider that, well, I explained it before in one of my videos, if you watch that, on how much it costs to go racing, it's 177,000 was a pretty low estimate on going Superstock racing for the year. So for 177 grand, if you won all the races, you're not exactly doing that well. So although it's great, and for me this year, I'll be able to keep my prize money, which will then just keep paying for the ride. So any prize money I win goes back in the pot. But relatively, when my dad used to race, or if you listen to my Steve Parish interview, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 76, won a race at Mallory, and it was £1,000 for winning it. And the bikes back then, I don't know what they cost, but they definitely didn't cost £1,000. So it's all relative, but obviously I'm not going to turn 500 quid down if we win that. That's still very good. Jack Bolden. Oh, I did answer your question. Jack's question was basically, I answered this on YouTube, but his question was, what's the hardest track in BSB physically? and Cadwell Park is the most physical, in my opinion. On a 1000cc bike, you don't really get a rest around there. You're just constantly changing direction. And even the back straight, you're turning all the way onto the straight, and then it starts going uphill and the bike's trying to wheelie, and I'm just moving now, trying to stop the bike wheeling, and it wheelies and you're trying to control that. So it's a very physical track. Road Toad 69. Do you ever ride on the road for fun, either with your mates or alone? If so, what do you ride, and do you visit local biker cafes? I don't actually ride on the road. I do have my road license. The only time I do ride on the road is when I work for Triumph and I do these like bike launches abroad, which I absolutely love doing. And as I'm getting, I think when I was younger, I didn't enjoy riding on the road that much because, well, the main reason is the day I passed my test, I got all giddy and went to my school, I'd left school at that point, but I rode past my school. There was a speed bump. I jumped the speed bump trying to show off, nearly went in the wrong side of the road. And at that point, I just thought, what am I doing? There's no real buzz for me riding on the road at 30 mile an hour or 60 mile an hour, because in pit lane, we go faster than that. So I didn't really enjoy it. However, now I'm getting older. I do actually appreciate it, and I just like being out on the road. And the Triumph trips, that's where I kind of found my love for riding on the road, because we do some amazing explorations and stuff like that. So this year, as part of my channel during the year, because we can't really travel this year, and there's not been a year in my life where I haven't gone abroad and traveled with racing, either with my dad's racing or my racing. And it's bizarre for me. And I don't like not traveling, because I love traveling. So this year I'm going to plan to do a trip with my dad to Scotland, and the plan is to visit just things that mean something to us. So where my dad grew up, Knockhill, maybe go up the coast a bit, back to where I lived and the primary school I went to for 7 years. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. So we'll do that at some point in the year, probably when the weather's a little bit better. So I do like riding on the road, but I don't really do it, is the answer. Hayden Wheeler. A few questions on the Project U-Race itself. In the dynamics of racetrack ownership, what are, or maybe a case of, if are there in the freedom to film and broadcast as such in a personal manner? So can I film at the track, basically? I'm not actually sure what the rules are. At the last round, I totally winged it and just took my GoPro and filmed everything I could. This year, if I'm going to keep doing it every single round, I need to make sure I'm doing the right thing, basically. So I'm going to okay it with the relevant people first. People do film at BSB. I think you just need permission to do it. And there are certain things you can't do, like you can't put a camera on your bike, definitely. Because I think it's Drift Cameras have a deal with BSB, and they provide cameras for all the Superbike Championships. So I think they own the rights to kind of do that. But in Superstock, they don't put any cameras on bikes. And I'm going to try and argue the point that if I'm putting a camera on my bike and videoing my weekend, then it's promoting the championship and getting people involved in it. So I'm hoping that that's a corner I can fight. Can you see U-Race as a project bringing new trackside experience to viewers? Well, yeah, exactly that. I think it can. And I think I'm biased, obviously, but I think it'd be cool to show people what it's like behind the scenes. Where I get my idea from, I don't know if anyone else has watched it, is the F1 documentary on Netflix. Previous to that, I just wasn't interested in F1. I'm still not completely sold on F1 a lot of the time, but after watching that documentary and seeing the raw racing behind the scenes, I thought that was amazing. And that's obviously, we're not going to be producing a Netflix production on my GoPro, but I think it's just nice to show people what goes on behind the scenes. Keeping control of U-Race in your vision, do you see any future obstacles? I won't say I don't see any at all, because it's racing and you never know what's going to happen in racing. But I think this year proved it can be a success. And this was the hardest year to do it in a way, because I started from nothing. I didn't have, well, I think I had, I don't know, not many subscribers anyway before I started this project. And hopefully in 12 months time, I'm a lot further ahead with this, and this YouTube channel can sustain me and sustain my racing. That would be amazing if I could get to that point. But the it did a job this year. It got us across the line and got me back on the grid. So that's yeah, I'm still chuffed. Michael Harrison, hi Taylor. I was listening to Sean Muir recently talking about the difference of 2 to 3% in getting to the front of the grid and taking podiums every race. How difficult is it to manage your own performance and that of the bike if knowing if it's the bike that's just not up to it, or if it's your personal performance that's not as it should be? So racing's a difficult sport. The reason I actually started, well, not the reason I started motorbike racing, but one of the things I really enjoyed at first was I used to play football as a child, and I hated football because I was okay at football and I quite enjoyed playing it. But no matter how well you play, if you've got 10 teammates that weren't bothered and didn't play that well, then there was nothing you could do really. You could get thrashed 10-0. And I hated that because I didn't like it when other people weren't putting the same effort in that I was. In motorbike racing, initially, it's kind of just down to you when you're a child, because it's, if you're fast enough, you'll win the race. As you then get older, it starts sloping back to being a football team again, because there's so many important members in your team, and the bike being one of them too, that if you don't have all the right tools and all the people pulling the weight and a bike that's doing a good job, it doesn't take a lot for you to suddenly not perform. And so yeah, it is hard. It's difficult because some years I've had this conversation with Neil Hodgson before. You do the first lap in Spanish testing, you set off out the pit lane, you do the first lap on the bike, and you just think, this isn't good. I don't like how the bike feels, or it doesn't fit me. Or Luca Marini, if you watch the MotoGP testing, he came out straight away saying the bike's too small for him. And that's just a horrible, they will be able to mold a MotoGP bike a bit more than any other bike. But if you get on a standard BMW, for instance, and you don't like the feel of it, there's not a lot you can do during the year. So it is difficult, but that's part of the game, I guess. And you have to just try and make the best of what you can. Always try and perform at your best. And I always just try my hardest. And I'd always hate to get to the end of my career and knowing that I hadn't given it my all. And I just try and pride myself on the fact that I try and give it everything. And that's all you can do sometimes. If that's not good enough, then you've just got to bite the bullet and try again next week. Stuart Leonard, hi Taylor, if fans get back in to watch the racing, will Bathams be doing hospitality at any of the rounds? Bathams, I'm laughing because the first round I ever did with Bathams, I asked Michael where the hospitality was, and he laughed at me and said, we don't do hospitality in this team. You just get pork scratchings and pints of Bathams. So they don't actually do any hospitality. But if it is something you're interested in, I can probably organise, I can sell spots in hospitality in Taz's team, in McCam's Yamaha, I'd imagine. So if anyone is interested in that at any point, just get in touch, because there's normally something I can do. PJ Gallen, if we get going again, are there any plans to run a track day? This was actually something that came up a few times in the comments when I started U-Race. And as much as I'd absolutely love to run a track day, I've had so many friends that have done them and had a nightmare because, I don't know, you book Alton Park, say, well, firstly, to book any of the good tracks, i.e. Alton Park, Brands Hatch, Donington Park, it's a fortune. They're really expensive to book. So you've got to fill them. And if you don't fill them, already you're going to make a loss, which is fine for some of the bigger companies because they just kind of average it out over the year. So they book dates. I don't mean to teach you to suck eggs here, but they book dates all year from February to November. And it averages out during the year because some of them are completely full and they make a fortune. And then other days they get 10 people on track when it rains at Snetterton, for instance, and they make a big loss. So over the year, they can sort of stomach the losses and get through it. But for someone like me that would just be able to do one track day, say, it's just like a big gamble. If it goes well, then great. But if it doesn't, if you don't initially get the numbers, then you're stuffed because your day comes up and you're stuffed. I'm quite close with James Whittam. I do a lot of the James Whittam schools, and they run them on the cheaper tracks like Mallory, Anglesey, and they run the days. They just about break even all the time. And James runs really good track days. They run about 60 people on a track day, and the whole year doesn't make a huge profit, I don't think. So I won't do one, basically, is my answer to that, because it's just too much of a risk. But I would like to do one. And if anyone does want to ride with me on a track day, I instruct at all the James Whittam's, well, not all of them. Just make sure, if you are going to book one, just get in touch with me first if you are interested in riding with me, because the James Whittam schools, you get free instruction that I instruct at. The Silverstone Masterclass, I do. You have to book the Masterclass, but you could request me as a teacher there. What's the other one I do? Not Kill. We instructed Not Kill, me, Dad, and Taz. So there are ways that I can still instruct people if that's what you're interested in. And you don't necessarily have to book me. You just book a track day and I'll be there to give you a hand. Onto the second post, I think I had 2 comments. Lewis McCarthy, any track day tips? Not Kill especially. Not Kill is just about letting the track flow as much as you can, not attacking any of the corners. The second you start attacking corners at Not Kill, it all starts tying itself in knots. And Not Kill is also really grippy in the wet. So don't push your luck in the wet around Not Kill, but have confidence that there is quite a lot of grip there. I'll now move on to these questions. David Saunders, is Rutter as miserable as he looks sometimes? Now, that is a fantastic question that I can address. When in 2018, I left the Ducati team and I was joining Batham's, and I got offered, Michael rang my dad and said, does Taylor want to ride the bike? And my dad said, Michael's offered you a bike. At that point, I was like I am now, absolutely desperate to go racing. I would have done anything to get on a bike. And I said, yeah, 100%, let me race. And the funny part of that was I went, yeah, but Michael's a bit miserable, isn't he? Like, it's going to be, I can't wait to ride the bike, but it's going to be hard work with Michael. As it happens, Michael, he's honestly one of the nicest people in the paddock, and he's helped me out so much over the last few years. Even when I wasn't racing for him last year, he was still like a second dad to me, really. And although he has a miserable face most of the time, we always joke in the team and say that he's smiling on the inside, because that's what he says. I'm smiling on the inside. I just don't tell my face. So he isn't as miserable as he looks. And he's actually really, really funny. He's got a really dry sense of humor. So much so that it's hard to tell when he's taking the mickey and when he's not a lot of the time. But I love him to bits. He is really funny. Willie Wiz, is there an entry fee for BSB? For the Superstock class, it's £4,000 for the year for your entry, I think. 99% is that much. There isn't, however, an entry fee in BSB. So that's where that chicken and egg situation came back. Teams used to have to pay for the entries, but now they get free entries. But there's no prize money. So I don't know. It's all swings and roundabouts, but so there you go. There's a £4,000 entry fee in Stock 1000, but then there's prize money, so you can win some of it back if you do well. Nicky Britton, hi Taylor, will you be using your number 77 Superstock? Also, how are rider numbers allocated? Think you answered this before. Congrats again too. Thank you. So rider numbers are allocated. Normally it works that numbers 1 to 10 are reserved for the people that finished in those positions in the championship the year before. But if that person, so say someone finishes 3rd and they don't want number 3 the next year, it's then fair game who has it, basically. And in the Superstock class, in Superbike, because everyone's sort of there every year, everyone knows what number they are and everyone sticks with a similar number. So it's just like, I think there's a bit of etiquette, really, that in my instance, James Ellison was always 77, and because he's been there for a lot of years and he was older than me, it was a bit awkward for me to come in and go, oh, by the way, I'm number 77. So I couldn't really have it, because it'd just be rude to try and steal it off him, really. And that's how it works in Superbike class. But when you get to the Superstock class, it's every man for himself and no one really cares. So it's just a bit of a dog-eat-dog world. In 2016, I won the championship and Hutchie was 2nd. Michael Rutter was 4th. But Hutchie was number 4 all year. And the following year, Hutchie just presumed he was going to be number 4. But technically, he doesn't actually own number 4. Michael Rutter does. And Michael Rutter, just because he likes annoying people, chose to be number 4 just to wind Hutchie up. So Hutchie then unbeknown to him, he thought he was having number 4. He'd got his helmet painted, his leathers badged, and he wasn't happy. I think he ended up being number 44 instead. So that was quite a funny story. So, and where I was going with this was this year in Superstock, I sat there all winter, sort of hoping I was going to get a ride, and sort of hoping that if I put it out there that I was getting a ride, no one would have 77 because they'd know. But what I didn't know was there was a South African import rider coming in. You think he's called Brent Harron, I think. It turns out he's friends with Dan Linfoot. He's working for Dan Linfoot at the minute, who didn't really know the etiquette, but it was also a fair game. When there's basically a deadline that it opens at 9 o'clock one morning, we all get an email, and you can go on, and it's the first fastest finger gets the number, really. And he had gone on at 9 o'clock in the morning, reserved it, and I was sat here for all the months over winter not knowing that. So when I finally realised that I could go racing, I went on to reserve my number, and he had gone. So I had to hunt him down and find out who he was, and it turned out it was Dan Linfoot's friend, and he very kindly, he didn't have to, but he let me have 77 because number 7 was still available. So it's a bit of a, in Superstock, it's just every man for himself. So I appreciate Brent doing that, and I can, I don't know if it's Brent or Brett. I apologise if I just got his name wrong, but I said I'd tow him around, not kill, in exchange. If they let you have a camera on the bike, it'd be cool to see a free practice or qualifying for every BSB round with commentary and a similar idea Steve Parish used to do for MotoGP. Yeah, that's a stumbling block. I don't think I'll be. I didn't actually read this, sorry, but yeah, I'm not sure I'll actually be allowed to do that. I will try and argue it though, and I will try and get one on the bike if I can, because it is. I think it's a shame that they don't. They do like summary. I don't know if you've seen them. They do summary of each session in Superbike, but none of the other classes do it. U-Race logo on the bike. Potentially, I'll have to get that one past Michael Rutter. But yeah, the problem with the stickers on the bike is if you look at one of my older videos, I sort of went through this. The biggest spots they have to reserve for the team. Because they're still trying to get big sponsors in to fund most of the ride. My U-Race money has contributed to my side of the team, and it'll basically just pay for all my running expenses during the year. But there's obviously a lot bigger expenses. Like I think our bike is in, I don't know how much it is, but it's in the region of 30 to 40,000 pounds for a Superstock bike. So there's big chunks of money that still have to be paid. So I'll do my best to squeeze it on if Michael will let me. Carl Goodchild, how's the restoration of the TY80 going? Well, there is an exciting topic for me. Everything's finished. I've restored all the parts now. The engine I rebuilt the other day with Darryl Young at IDP Moto. I've done a video on that. However, we lost a tiny ball bearing at the engine. So on reassembly of the engine, there was one tiny ball bearing that cost 25p to replace that we were missing. So I couldn't finish the engine that day. So I've left it with him, and he's going to put the final ball bearing in the engine, and then I'll pick it up. Oh, it is Brent. Danielle knows. So the ball bearing was a stumbling block. The paintwork I did last week with Paint Nation, who paints my helmets. That's actually going to be a video either this Sunday or next Sunday. And I actually learned to spray paint for the day, which I've really enjoyed doing. I've rattle canned loads of things before, but I've never actually spray painted anything. So I've spray painted the tank like Yamaha colours again, and I love doing that. So the tank's brand new, and all the side panel. And yeah, I've just got I need the engine back because I can't really start the bike until I've got the engine in it. And that's it. For whatever reason, they're my least popular videos. I think I said it last time on the channel. So I'll wait until I've got the engine back, and I've already filmed the engine rebuild. I'll put that in the episode as well, and I'll just do it as a big bumper episode. But it's got me excited because I want to start planning another one, really, because I really enjoyed doing it. David Saunders, it's all about balls. Yeah, exactly. It is all about the balls. And unless anyone's got any other questions, I'll start wrapping up. If you've got any more questions, write them in now. But I hope you enjoyed catching up with me, and I'll just carry on doing this during the year. I'll try and aim to do it once a month. As a season, it's always really easy planning stuff like this now, But as the season gets going, suddenly it just gets chaotic. But I'll do my best to make it a monthly plan. And yeah, that'll be the plan. What's my training regime? My training regime is pretty strict, if I'm honest. I kind of touched on this in my fitness video, but as much as a laugh and a joke I tend to have a lot of the time, my training is the one area that I do really focus on and I'm really strict with. So Loughborough University give me a plan that basically I have, I don't know how many, I'll tell you exactly now because I've got my plan here. I can show you what Loughborough University sent me. So basically it's all done over WhatsApp. So I have a strength and conditioning coach and a cardiovascular coach. So all my cycling sessions, because I can't run at the minute, obviously with my knee. So all my cycling sessions are put into, that's each day of the week. So red session's a hard one, green's easier. And then as the weeks go on, as we're getting close to the season, they get more red basically. We do more higher intensity stuff. And then this is a rest week before I've got another fitness test. And that's the end of this block. So that takes me, I'm not sure what week that takes me up to, but it's about 4 weeks away, that is. And then they plan another 6-week block. So I'll do it in blocks like that with my cardio session. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cycles that I do a week. Some of them are an hour long, and then some of them are, the hour long ones are like really hard, high intensity interval training on an indoor bike. And then I do longer sessions. Normally on a Saturday, I try and do like 2 or 3 hours on a mountain bike because I really enjoy doing that. And then my strength and conditioning coach, I do 3 strength and conditioning sessions as well. So basically I do normally 2 days a week where I have to train twice in the day. And then today was my day where I just do strength and conditioning. So it keeps me busy during the week. As it's getting more intense now, when I do the high intensity days, they basically just wipe me out for the day. Last week, me and Taz were basically just laid, because we do them together, we were just laid on the garage floor trying not to be sick, laughing at each other. So I've probably filmed some of that at some point too. You get your dinner, Willy Whiz, and yeah, I'll end it on that. I hope everyone enjoyed that. And any video requests you've got as well, I meant to say that. Oh, last thing before I go, this blooming merchandise, honestly, I don't know what to say. I basically started with a company. This is the last thing and I'll go. I started with a company in November to order merchandise that would be here for Christmas. That company was the most useless company in the world. All these companies use the same sort of clothing style and you just get it embroidered on the top. That's what I'm doing. So I'd ordered this type of clothing. It's meant to be here for Christmas, didn't turn up, got to the end of January. He basically said it'd be here in March. And I said, that's no good. I'll try and use someone else. So I'd already paid the money for this merchandise, got a refund for that, bought it from another person at the end of January, and they said it'd be here in 10 days. So it should have been here on the 11th of February. So I then tell everyone the merchandise is going to be here, don't panic. And this company has just been the same. They've told me it should have been here today, and it's not here today. So it was initially meant to be here in January with this new company, and then it was February, and then it was March. I'm up to today. So I can only apologize. It's just embarrassing for me. But hopefully the second it's here, I'll post it all out. And someone's at my front door, so I'll end it on that. See you all soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.